When the fetus in my womb reached 5 months, I suddenly heard my daughter's thoughts. Mom, my sister is actually pinching my umbilical cord with her hand to survive. It hurts so much. After believing my elder daughter's words, I ate frantically, supplemented desperately, and even asked the doctor if there was any medicine to inhibit my younger daughter's growth. But during childbirth, due to the oversized fetus, I still suffered massive bleeding. I only gave birth to the elder sister before passing away, resulting in 2 lives lost. Just before completely losing consciousness, I saw my sister give me an evil smile after she was born. Fool, believing everything you're told, I'll gladly take your luck, your sister's, and Dad's too. Only then did I realize that the sister I had risked my life to give birth to was actually born evil. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the first day I heard my sister's thoughts. Mom, it hurts so much. My sister is pinching my umbilical cord to get more nutrients. Hearing these words again, I finally emerged from the days of my rebirth. I've truly returned. In my past life, it was after hearing these words that I made a series of foolish decisions. This time around, no matter what kind of monster is growing inside me, I won't let her harm me or my child again. If I just ignore her, perhaps she won't be able to stir up any trouble. Mom, save me. Seeing that I wasn't responding at all, the sister inside my belly tentatively made some faint sounds again. My heart turned icy cold, but I maintained a perfectly normal expression on my face as I gently rubbed my belly. The doctor said there are 2 babies in my belly. Babies. You must be good and not trouble Mommy. My sister looked at me with confusion in her eyes, puzzled by my affectionate gaze. Strange, I've been speaking so loudly. Can she still not hear me? Hearing these words, I was momentarily stunned. Could it be that after being reborn, the heavens have granted me the genuine ability to hear my sister's innermost thoughts, suppressing my inner excitement? I casually picked up a picture book and began reading softly. Little ones, Mommy's going to give you some prenatal education. Just then, the front door opened, and Chenmo walked in with a smile on his face. Wanwan, I'm home. How are you feeling today? Have the little ones been bothering you? He asked habitually while changing his shoes. I put down the picture book, a gentle smile blooming on my face. The smile of a first-time mother. The babies have been very well behaved, but today I felt like eating cake. Maybe it's the babies craving it. I acted completely normal because I knew only when I stopped obeying her control would this demon grow frantic, perhaps even resorting to desperate, underhanded tricks. My sister made another fuss and said a few words. Mom, don't eat the cake. I know you're lactose intolerant. It's my sister who wants to eat it. She's trying to harm you. Mom, drink the chicken soup instead. It's nutritious. Listening to her inner thoughts, I raised an eyebrow. She's using every means possible to make me hate my sister and prevent her birth. All for the sake of that bit of luck between her and me. I think that after I died in my previous life, her antics probably turned my husband's family upside down. Chenmo came over, gave me a hug, and then gently touched my belly. Alright, it's just cake, right? I'll go buy it for you right now. With a playful glint in my eyes, I took Chenmo's hand and coquettishly said, but I don't feel like eating cake now. I want the chicken soup you make with your own hands. Could you go make it for me right now? Whatever you say. Chenmo patted my head and turned to enter the kitchen. Mom, can you hear me talking? Mom, it's me, your older sister. Hearing me change my mind. My sister thought I could hear her and became even more excited, dancing around animatedly. Mommy, I'll protect you. Sister is very bad. Don't like sister anymore. Okay. I just sat quietly on the sofa watching TV, pretending not to hear anything. Looking at it now, this older sister is quite noisy. Her thoughts buzz in my ears. Where's the genuine care for me? Strange. Can this damn woman even hear me or not? After once again ignoring my sister's inner thoughts, she became furious and simply shut her mouth. No matter what, it's still the child in my womb. Hearing her call me a dead woman finally broke my heart. Chenmo made me chicken soup. As I drank it, I praised his cooking skills. After finishing the meal, Chenmo sat with me on the sofa and habitually reached out to touch my belly. Just as his hand was about to touch my abdomen, a heart-wrenching cry suddenly exploded in my mind. Dad, Dad, can you hear me? Sister is bullying me. She's stealing my nutrients and kicking me. It hurts so much. Dad, Chen Mo's hand froze abruptly mid-air, his smile instantly solidifying into an expression of shock tinged with panic. He stared incredulously at my abdomen, then back at me, his voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. Wanwan, did you just hear something? How could this be? Why can Chen Mo hear it too? I was flustered. But then immediately realized it was because I didn't fall for her tricks that my sister couldn't wait to extend her claws towards Chen Mo. At this moment, I had to steady myself. I immediately furrowed my brows, my face filled with bewilderment and concern. Sound? What sound, honey? Are you too tired from work and hearing things? I reached out and grasped his hand, frozen mid-air, pressing it against my own cheek. Would you like to go rest first? The babies are very well behaved. They won't make me suffer. Chen Mo looked at my utterly clueless expression, his eyes flickering with doubt. I saw him open his mouth as if wanting to say something to me. But in the end, he remained silent, under my concerned gaze. Chen Mo ultimately just shook his head and forced a smile. Maybe so. The project pressure has been a bit heavy lately. I pulled him aside to rest, then placed my hand on my belly, pondering how to stop my sister from continuing her mischief. But fate had other plans. That very night, while I was still deep asleep, my sister began her performance. Daddy, save me. My little sister wants to monopolize mommy and doesn't want me to be born. Why can't mom hear me? Dad, you're the only one who can protect me now. I was startled awake by the voice, only to see Chen Mo tossing and turning beside me in the moonlight, breathing heavily. I knew it. He'd fallen for it after all. The next morning, Chen Mo's gaze at my stomach was indescribably complicated. I clutched my stomach, my face appropriately showing a look of unease. Honey, why are you looking at me like that? Did something happen to the kids? Chen Mo froze for a moment, then stammered in reply. No, nothing. Yes. Little sister has already started absorbing my hands and feet. Mom, Dad, I'm so scared. Big sister continues to spare no effort in slandering little sister. I just held my belly, looking at Chen Mo with complete understanding. Honey, don't I know you? You're feeling uneasy, aren't you? Should we go to the hospital today for another detailed checkup, just to ease your mind? This is the first step in the plan, with the most authoritative medical proof. No matter how much my sister tries to argue, a lie will always remain a lie. Chen Mo, already unsettled by that eerie voice, heard my suggestion and agreed almost without hesitation. When he looked at me, there was a hint of guilt in his eyes. Wanwan, don't blame me. It's my first time being a father, and my concern made me act rashly. At the hospital, Chen Mo accompanied me through the most thorough examinations. The doctor looked at the ultrasound and smiled as she told us, rest assured, both embryos are developing very well, with strong heartbeats. On the screen, two tiny figures nestled peacefully together. Chen Mo stared intently at the screen, still pressing anxiously for answers. Doctor, are both children's limbs fully developed? Are there any cases of underdevelopment? Before the doctor could respond, I furrowed my brows. Chen Mo, what do you mean? Do you think I'm carrying children with congenital disabilities? No, Wanwan, I'm just worried. Chen Mo softened his tone to coax me when he saw how angry I looked. The doctor spoke up at that moment. Don't worry, the children are all healthy. I sneered inwardly but clung to Chen Mo's arm with apparent dependence. Honey, I told you were overthinking it. After returning home, before I could even catch my breath, my sister seemed to realize that today's events had worked against her. Dad, I'm so hungry. My little sister took all my nutrients. Can you ask Mom to eat more? Chen Mo was taken aback but still instructed the nanny with skepticism to prepare an exceptionally lavish dinner table. He picked up a greasy pig's trotter and placed it in my bowl. Wanwan, for the sake of the children, eat more, you're too thin. Looking at this glistening piece of meat, my stomach churned violently. In my past life, it was precisely by forcing myself to eat like this that I ended up overnourished, leading to a difficult birth due to an oversized fetus. But I didn't refuse. Instead, I gave Chen Mo a touched smile and then lowered my head, trying hard to swallow. Sure enough, after a few bites, intense morning sickness kicked in. I rushed to the bathroom, vomiting violently until I was dizzy and tears streamed down my face. Chen Mo, who had followed me in, looked at my pale and weak state and couldn't bear it. He gently patted my back to help me catch my breath. "Honey, I really can't eat such greasy food. Didn't the doctor say the babies are perfectly healthy?" Chen Mo looked at my disheveled state, and for the first time, a struggle appeared in his eyes. At night, I turned my back to Chen Mo, feeling the restless movements of the child in my belly, unwilling to settle. Her inner voice was no longer the feigned fragility but carried a sharp edge of frustration. "Mom, why won't you listen to me? Why won't you eat? Do you want to starve me to death? Or perhaps, you can actually hear me?" Her words startled me greatly, but I merely pretended to shift uncomfortably due to pregnancy, eventually falling asleep to the sound of her incessant murmuring. After that, I hadn't heard any movement from her for a long time and thought she had abandoned such sinister thoughts. However, as my due date approached, I felt inexplicably uneasy, but Chen Mo stayed by my side the whole time, offering me much comfort and encouragement. I thought everything would proceed peacefully until I gave birth. But on the day Chen Mo returned from work, she started causing trouble again. "Daddy, today at home, Mommy was hugging and cuddling with an uncle. I saw it." Chen Mo's hand, which had been reaching out to hold me, froze mid-air. He took a sudden step back, his finger trembling as he pointed at me, veins bulging at his temples. What exactly did you do at home today? Was there any man there?" My heart sank like a stone. She was trying to drive a wedge between us as husband and wife, and utterly destroy my reputation and marriage, pushing me into a corner with no way out. I was wrong from the very beginning. What she wanted wasn't luck at all. But to have Chen Mo all to herself. "Honey, I just watched some TV on the sofa today and took a little nap. What's wrong? Mommy is lying. I clearly heard her talking to Uncle Wang next door, and she said the baby in her belly is his too. Daddy, I only want you as my daddy." The sister in my belly was screaming and crying, her voice piercing straight into my mind. I was certain Chen Mo heard those words too. How could she slander me like this? Her words left me pale with shock. But who would have thought Chen Mo would interpret it as the expression of someone caught cheating? "Su Wanwan, are you even human, making me the fool guy? Have you no shame?" "Honey, I didn't." I tried to explain myself, but in his fury, he shoved me to the ground. I felt a sudden warmth beneath me, and only then did I realize what was happening as I clutched my stomach. My baby, my baby." The rage on Chen Mo's face froze instantly when he saw the glaring red stain beneath me. Quickly replaced by panic, he frantically dialed for an ambulance, but even as we waited for it to arrive, my sister's inner voice still wouldn't stop. "Daddy, please don't abandon me. I'm your biological daughter. I'll be very obedient. Mom only likes my younger sister, she doesn't like me." I could tell that with every word she spoke, Chen Mo's expression grew colder, but I kept my eyes closed, sweat and tears mingling on my face, offering no further defense. Because I knew I needed a safe delivery to bring the 2 children in my womb into this world, especially that demon. I had to see her leave my body with my own eyes before I could begin my revenge. As the ambulance arrived, I was immediately wheeled into the delivery room. Chen Mo's push had sent me into premature labor. In the delivery room, I screamed myself hoarse, yet despite the doctor's encouragement, my vision remained blurred. It hurt, so unbearably much, at this very moment. My sister's familiar inner voice sharply pierced my mind once again, carrying undisguised malice. "Idiot, push harder. Your last value is to deliver me safely. Once I'm with Dad, your good days are over." Hearing these words filled me with rage, and hatred instantly gave me renewed strength. Accompanied by the doctor's loud cry, "This demon was finally born." Without a moment's hesitation, I continued adjusting my breathing, and before long, my younger sister was also born, 2 daughters. Both very healthy. The nurse brought the cleaned-up baby to show me. At that very moment, my exhausted self on the delivery bed and Chen Mo, who had just rushed to the delivery room door with the joy and complex emotions of first-time fatherhood, both clearly saw a fleeting smile appear on that demon's face. I appropriately displayed shock and bewilderment, my pupils contracting sharply as I stared fixedly at that child. Chen Mo seemed as if struck by lightning, staggering back a step with trembling fingers pointing at the baby in the nurse's arms, his face deathly pale. She just smiled. "New father. Newborns can only cry." The nurse placed both babies into incubators, then cleaned me up and moved me to the ward, offering us a reassuring smile. Was I too nervous and saw it wrong? Chen Mo couldn't suppress his astonishment even as he walked into the hospital room, his voice trembling. Nurse, can I request a paternity test with the children? The nurse's smile froze instantly. She looked at me helplessly, then turned her gaze to Chen Mo, whose face was deathly pale but whose eyes held an unusually firm resolve. We understand how you feel, sir, but the paternity test, I demand it. Chen Mo abruptly cut her off, his voice rising uncontrollably with emotion. I need to confirm it right now. I lay on the hospital bed, weakly propping myself up as tears slid down my cheeks at just the right moment. Chen Mo, is this really how you see me in your heart? What have I done wrong to make you think I'm such a fickle woman? Chen Mo's voice faltered momentarily upon seeing my tears. Wanwan, I'm not doubting you, he hemmed and hawed for ages but couldn't come up with a proper explanation. I sighed and closed my eyes, refusing to look at him. In the end, under Chen Mo's strong insistence, even bordering on hysterical threats, the hospital reluctantly agreed to expedite 2 paternity tests. The day waiting for the results was excruciating torture for both me and Chen Mo. The 2 daughters also had their own names. The demon was called Chen Wei, and the younger sister was named Chen Yuan. I was disheartened by Chen Mo's distrust and never treated him kindly, so he had no choice but to turn his attention to caring for the children. Yet Chen Wei's inner voice did not cease. Instead, it grew clearer and more cunning. Whenever Chen Mo approached her, she would always seize the moment to let out cries of distress. Daddy, don't you like Wei Wei anymore? Wei Wei said something wrong and got so scared. Daddy works too hard. When Wei Wei grows up she'll be filial to Daddy too. Every time Chen Mo heard her inner thoughts, he would momentarily space out, and I could see the struggle on his face growing more intense. Finally, the paternity test results came out, and Chen Mo practically snatched the report to read it immediately. The report revealed that Chen Wei and Chen Yuan are both Chen Mo's biological daughters. Chen Mo leaned against the wall as if all his strength had been drained, letting out a burst of laughter. The laughter startled both children awake, and they began crying loudly. He then turned his head and grasped my hand. Wanwan, I didn't mean to doubt you, I was just being foolish. The doctor sighed and patted his shoulder. Mr. Chen, you see, the results show no issues. Perhaps your wife's childbirth has given you significant postpartum stress. Our hospital offers excellent psychological counseling. Chen Mo nodded eagerly, as if grasping at a lifeline. But I knew this issue was far from over. In the days that followed, Chen Mo treated me and the children with an almost penitential attitude. He took on all the chores, clumsily learning to change diapers, feed the babies, and burp them, while being extra careful and accommodating toward me. Yet whenever his gaze fell upon Chen Wei, cracks would inevitably appear in his carefully maintained composure. Because Chen Wei's inner voice hadn't disappeared, instead, it grew even louder. It wasn't until we were discharged and returned home, and Chen Mo hired 2 postpartum caregivers, that he finally breathed a sigh of relief. To prevent the caregivers from secretly mistreating the child and to uncover any further schemes Chen Wei might have, I secretly installed cameras in every corner of the room without telling anyone. Sure enough, within a few days, Chen Wei's cries echoed through the house. When Chen Mo and I rushed over to check, we found bruises on Chen Wei's arm. Daddy, my scratched me on purpose. Does she not like me? She tearfully complained to Chen Mo. Chen Mo stiffened as he picked her up, turning to scold the nanny for not watching the children properly. After examining her injury, I signaled the nanny to take both children away for treatment. After handling everything, I showed Chen Mo the footage from the camera I had installed earlier. Seeing Chen Wei pinch herself with her own hands, Chen Mo's face turned pale instantly, and he quickly grabbed my hand tightly. The devil, she's the devil, he finally spoke out. I listened as he lowered his voice and incoherently recounted all the bizarre experiences he'd had since I became pregnant. Before burying his face in his hands and breaking down into sobs again, I reached out and embraced him, tears involuntarily streaming down my face as well. I know, I heard everything. Chen Mo's pupils contracted sharply. He grabbed my wrist with such force it felt like he might crush my bones. You could hear it all along. Then why? Because I've died once before, Chen Mo. My tears flowed even more fiercely as the horrific scenes from my past life flashed before my eyes. Between sobs, I recounted the events of that previous life to Chen Mo, finally breaking down into uncontrollable weeping. I never thought she'd make you hear it too in this life. I didn't dare tell you. I kept pretending I couldn't hear anything. I was afraid you'd think I'd gone mad. Chen Mo stretched out his arms and held me tightly in his embrace as I trembled violently. It's all my fault. All because I believed her words, and it nearly caused you to go into premature labor. We held each other like that and cried for a long time. After Chen Mo's emotions had calmed somewhat, he tenderly wiped away my tears. It's okay, you're safe now. Yuanyuan is safe too. I'll protect you both. That monster that took over our daughter's body, no matter what it is, won't lay a finger on either of you again. Just then, the maternity nurse gently knocked on the door. Sir, did you know your elder daughter has a birthmark on her body? Chen Mo and I quickly wiped away our tears, rubbing our eyes as we opened the door. What did you say? The maternity nurse wiped her hands and handed us her phone, while applying medicine to your sister just now. I noticed a strange red butterfly pattern on the back of her neck. I took a photo specifically. Is this a birthmark? Chen Mo took the phone, and after just one glance, his eyes widened rapidly. This. I noticed the nanny's face showing a strange expression, so I quickly handed her phone back and explained. Sorry, he probably feels incompetent for not noticing the baby's birthmark after taking care of them for so long. The nanny smiled understandingly. Since everything's fine, I'll go back to watching the baby. By the way, could you send me a copy of this photo? Chen Mo finally regained his senses after I kept nudging him with my elbow and hastily asked. The maternity matron then sent the photo to our phones. Chen Mo pulled me into the study and immediately started rummaging around. I was completely baffled, not even knowing what he was looking for. Finally, he pulled out a classmate yearbook from a box and eagerly flipped through it. Found it. He lifted the group photo from the classmate record and pointed at a woman as he spoke. This birthmark, its location, shape, color. There's absolutely no way such a coincidence exists in this world. I looked at the woman in the photo. She was the rare one in the group picture who wasn't facing the camera, instead fixing her gaze firmly on Chen Mo. Lin Weiya. It's you, Chen Mo murmured. Lin Weiya. Who is she? I asked in confusion. She was my college classmate. With the same birthmark as my sister. I just thought this birthmark looked familiar. Back in college, Lin Weiya even showed it to us on purpose. At the time, we all thought it was some kind of temporary tattoo. Chen Mo seemed lost in memories. Lin Weiya likes you? I asked, hearing my question. Chen Mo froze for a moment before shaking his head blankly. Although I haven't had much contact with her, I can't rule out that possibility. But this birthmark is definitely not a coincidence. After clearing things up that day, all misunderstandings between Chen Mo and me vanished, and we decided to start investigating the connection between Chen Wei and Lin Weiya. I sat aside, watching Chen Mo's computer screen display Lin Weiya's resume and traces of her social media presence. The woman on the screen smiled with an eerie gloom, making me think of Chen Wei involuntarily. Chen Mo exhausted almost all his connections and resources just to find out that Lin Weiya had abruptly resigned from a promising company without any warning. Right around the time we got married, when asked about the reason for her resignation, she only gave vague answers, blaming it on personal issues. We then tried contacting her former colleague, who recalled hazily, during that period, Weiya was in terrible shape. Her face was pale, and she kept zoning out at work. She even quietly asked around if anyone knew any particularly effective masters, said she wanted a protective talisman, amulet. Chen Mo sneered. I'd rather believe she wanted some dark magic to harm others. Following this lead, Chen Mo and I went through many twists and turns before finally connecting with an elderly gentleman living in seclusion on the outskirts of the city. Through the introduction of a trusted elder, on the phone, we omitted part of the truth, only saying that the baby at home was behaving strangely, as if haunted by some sinister entity. The old gentleman remained silent for a moment, then responded with just 4 words, meet to discuss doubts. While preparing to visit the old gentleman's home, we also didn't forget to deceive Chen Wei. In front of her, Chen Mo was always the fool who would start doubting me, doubting the postpartum nanny, and doubting Chen Yuan after hearing her thoughts. While I was always the punching bag who wouldn't argue back, just silently crying, "Idiot," when I heard Chen Wei call me that again, my heart was already numb. But whenever I helped the nanny take care of the baby, I couldn't help but notice that even when Chen Wei was asleep, the slightest happy laugh from Chen Yuan would make her frown deeply. I subtly teased Chen Yuan again, only to see her laugh even more joyfully, her little legs kicking up, almost simultaneously. Chen Wei, who had been sleeping with her eyes closed, suddenly opened them. Her gaze lacked the innocence of a baby, filled only with icy anger, and even some unease and agitation. I think I might have discovered something. At the same time, Chen Mo had also made all the preparations. We quietly left home one early morning and drove to the old gentleman's residence. After listening to our more detailed descriptions, the old gentleman pondered for a long time. Then asked for the birth dates and times of the two children, as well as a photo of Lin Weiya. He calculated meticulously with his fingers, but his frown grew deeper and deeper. Finally, he slowly looked up at us. "Mr. Chen, Mrs. Su, if my calculations are correct, your eldest daughter seems to have fallen victim to an extremely sinister forbidden art." Chen Mo and I exchanged glances, holding our breath. This technique is extremely sinister. The caster forcibly merges their own soul with an unborn fetus, like a cuckoo occupying another's nest. Through this, they can influence the parent's emotions. This is what you've been calling auditory hallucinations. Perhaps it's sisterly intuition, or maybe your elder daughter's soul hasn't completely dissipated. That's why she feels agitated whenever her younger sister is happy. Chen Mo gasped sharply and immediately pressed for more answers. "Is there a solution?" The old gentleman nodded. "This spell requires the caster to use a deeply cherished object from her past life, something she was obsessively attached to, as a medium to anchor her soul firmly within the newborn's body. This item should be close to the child, as it needs constant resonance." My spirits lifted. "Is it just a matter of finding and destroying it?" The old man nodded and added, "You must completely destroy it at noon when the yang energy is at its peak." I quickly bowed deeply to the old man with Chen Mo. "Old sir, you'll be handsomely rewarded once this is done." On our way back, Chen Mo and I couldn't wait to start discussing. What could Lin Weiya's most cherished possession be? Jewelry, letters, or some small keepsake with special meaning? Frowning deeply, I looked at Chen Mo. "Since Lin Weiya's obsession is you, could it be something you gave her?" Chen Mo pondered for a moment, then shook his head. "Actually, Lin Weiya and I didn't have much interaction. I never gave her any gifts. I just invited some unfamiliar college classmates out of courtesy on the wedding day." I squeezed his hand. "Whatever it is, since it can serve as a medium, it must meet these two conditions. Moreover, this thing must be in the house. We can't search openly, or we'll alert the enemy." Chen Mo immediately understood what I meant. "Then let her lead us to it herself." I repeated his words softly and instantly grasped his intention. "What do you need me to do?" From that day on, Chen Mo became a devoted father, taking care of the child around the clock without interruption. Lin Weiya's inner voice also grew less radical due to Chen Mo's gentle care towards her. That day, I casually asked Chen Mo in front of her, pretending it was unintentional, "Honey, there's too much of your old stuff in the study. Why don't we clean it out and throw it away to make a playroom for the kids?" Chen Mo frowned and was about to nod when Lin Weiya's inner voice startled him. "No, absolutely not." Chen Wei let out a loud scream. But then, as if realizing something, she murmured softly, "The study is full of Dad's memories. How can we throw them away?" Chen Mo and I exchanged glances. It seems the issue lies with Chen Mo's old belongings. Pretending to be startled by Lin Weiya's inner thoughts, Chen Mo placed her directly in the crib and spoke to me. I'll think about it." Displeased, I threw a box onto the living room floor and scolded Chen Mo. "Why haven't you thrown away all this space-taking junk? Is there some memory with another woman attached to it?" Chen Mo was taken aback by my scolding, scratching his head and stammering in response. I took the opportunity to glance at Lin Weiya and noticed she didn't have much of a reaction. So I signaled Chen Mo with my eyes. "No, let's sort it out today." While the children were all in their cribs, we quickly packed up several large boxes. When we realized Lin Weiya wasn't asleep and was even paying attention to our movements, We knew our gamble had paid off. Chen Mo crouched down and began rummaging through the items in the cardboard box, just some old books and a few photo albums, things like that. I also crouched beside him, sifting through the items with my hands. Keep the photo albums and such, but these books and test papers are useless. We might as well sell them to the scrap collector later. Chen Mo's searching hand paused, and I knew he had found something, quickly moving closer to look. Is this yours? It's not some keepsake from an ex-girlfriend, is it? I looked at him with dissatisfaction. How could it be? Chen Mo pretended to be greatly surprised, examining the object in his hand. This music box. I really don't know who sent it. Maybe we should just throw it away too. As these words were spoken, both Chen Mo and I involuntarily turned our gaze toward the child housing Lin Wei's soul. We saw her tiny body convulse violently, her face turning crimson as her cries grew increasingly louder, carrying an almost hysterical intensity. Chen Mo and I exchanged a knowing glance, and he immediately stepped forward to comfort Lin Wei with a hug. There, why the sudden tears? Are you hungry, Wanwan? Leave the things aside for now, it's getting late, and the children are more important. I responded with an okay, but quietly tucked away the music box. Time waits for no one. If we don't act quickly, who knows what other heinous acts Lin Wei might commit. After consulting the elderly gentleman over the phone, we decided to take advantage of the children's nap time to smash the music box in front of her and burn it to ashes. The room was arranged perfectly according to the elderly gentleman's instructions. I held Chen Yuan tightly in my arms to prevent Lin Wei from suddenly going berserk and harming her. Chen Mo stood at the center of the room, his face extremely grave. Last night, we had asked the nanny to stay up late and take the two children out to play, exhausting all their energy. They were now fast asleep. Chen Mo took a deep breath and raised the music box, ready to smash it onto the ground. No, at that moment, a sharp, distorted scream, utterly unlike that of a baby, pierced the air. The child in the crib contorted in agony, mouth stretched open to an unnatural width, as Lin Wei's voice, filled with malice, echoed throughout the room. Chen Mo, you can't do this. I love you so much. From the moment I first saw you in college, I fell in love with you. What makes Su Wanwan so special? What does she have that I don't? I endured this weak body just to be with you forever, even becoming your daughter. Why are you treating me like this? She screamed hysterically, even separating herself from her physical form, leaving only a swirling mass of dark energy visible to us. Look at me, Chen Mo, only I truly love you. Put down that box, and let's be together forever. Okay, these words sent chills down my spine, and I tightened my grip on Chen Yuan even more. Chen Mo's expression remained unchanged, his eyes devoid of hesitation, filled only with deep disgust. Your love makes me utterly sick. Without any hesitation, he placed the music box into a prepared metal bucket and smashed it to pieces with a hammer. The delicate wooden box shattered instantly. Lin Wei let out a reluctant scream, but after Chen Mo lit it with a match, her figure quickly faded and then dissipated in the midday sunlight. Only after witnessing this scene did I finally breathe a sigh of relief. The earlier confrontation had been so tense that my entire body was rigid, drenched in cold sweat. Chen Mo hurried over to embrace me, and we both turned to glance at the crib once more. Chen Wei collapsed limply onto the bed, her eyes tightly shut, her face pale, her chest rose and fell slightly, as if she had fallen asleep. Just like her sister, she was now nothing more than an ordinary baby. I leaned against Chen Mo's embrace, holding Chen Yuan in my arms, and could clearly hear the thunderous beating of both our hearts. With trembling hands, I set Chen Yuan down and went to check on Chen Wei's condition. Her birthmark disappeared. Honey, our child has returned. Chen Mo held my hand and let out a long sigh of relief. Yes, we will raise them well. A year later, Chen Mo and I sat side by side on a picnic blanket, watching our two daughters crawl around with gentle smiles. This past year has been good to us. Chen Mo kept getting promotions and raises, while the studio under my management continued to be profitable. Naturally, we've poured all our love into raising our two girls. Watching them babble their first words, it's as if the shadow that once loomed over our family never existed at all. Truth be told, I know Chen Mo still looked into Lin Wei's whereabouts privately, but she had taken her own life long before our wedding, her soul completely dissipated. No possibility of causing any more trouble, still uneasy, he changed the children's names, wishing only for them to live the rest of their lives safely and happily. The sunlight outlined the figures of the two children. I leaned my head against Chenmo's chest, letting him tighten his arms around me. It's all over. The sun was shining brightly, and the years were peaceful. That concludes the first story. Stay tuned for even more exciting stories coming up. On the day we returned to the city after finishing our volunteer teaching, the village chief blocked my doorway with his yellowed teeth bared. "Teacher Liang, before you leave, pay back the money you owe the village." He listed all my accommodation and meals over the past 3 years into a long bill, demanding I pay fees totaling up to 200,000 yuan, 3,000 yuan monthly rent for a dilapidated house, 100 yuan daily fee for well water usage. Half a corn cob gifted by a child costs 10 bucks. Of course, I wasn't willing to pay. The next second, a group of burly men surrounded me, looking fierce. Debts must be repaid. That's the natural order. Either stay here as the village chief's son-in-law and keep teaching, or pay up before you leave. I smiled, effortlessly achieved. After 3 years undercover, it was finally time to close the net. All right, I'll go back to the city today and bring you the money as soon as I withdraw it. The burly men surrounding me froze in place, exchanging bewildered glances. They hadn't expected me to agree so readily to such an outrageous demand. The village chief, being more experienced, spoke up. "What if you don't come back after returning to the city? Wouldn't all these years we've supported you be for nothing?" I had come here 3 years ago as a volunteer teacher. Over these 3 years, I wouldn't say I've poured my heart and soul into it, but I've certainly been diligent and conscientious. I've exerted all my efforts to elevate a village where the highest education level was elementary school, ensuring that every child with normal intelligence had the opportunity to complete 9 years of compulsory education. Some children have even been admitted to high schools in the county. Now, with just a few words from the village chief, it's as if they've been supporting me for free these 3 years. And I'm the one who owes them, but I didn't dwell on it too much. I came here with more important purposes in mind, and I can't let such trivial matters delay my major plans. Then what do you suggest? I'll follow your lead. My suggestion, if you ask me, you have no choice but to stay in our village and become my live-in son-in-law. The village chief spoke bluntly, his tone brooking no argument. However, the several burly men around all frowned deeply. 200,000 yuan was an astronomical figure for this impoverished small mountain village. Even if divided equally among every household, it would amount to several years' worth of their hard-earned harvests. Now, just because the village chief wanted to marry off his daughter, they were supposed to give up extorting me. Of course they were unwilling. The men exchanged glances. "Chief, it's only natural that Teacher Liang doesn't fancy your silly daughter. Young folks these days believe in free love. You can't force an ox to drink water if it's not thirsty." The village chief knew exactly what they were thinking and immediately cursed them. "You heartless bastards, how did you get your own wives? Now you're preaching free love to me." The burly man who had just spoken showed no fear. "That's because they refused to repay the money at the time. It's definitely not the same situation as with Teacher Liang, lured by the prospect of money." The group mustered the courage to argue back against the usually authoritative village chief. I was delighted to watch their infighting. "So, what's it going to be? Without the money, I won't willingly stay either. The choice is yours." The village chief also knew that without the help of these strong men, they wouldn't be able to keep me no matter what. Reluctantly, he agreed to let me return to the city. But there's a condition. They insisted on sending 2 strong men to accompany me into the city and keep an eye on me. Of course, I agreed without hesitation. The villagers finally dispersed, satisfied, and selected the 2 who had been to the city the most often. They went home to pack their belongings before setting off with me. Yet no one noticed that my eyes had already turned blood red the moment they mentioned the origin of their wives, nor that my nails had dug so deeply into my palms from clenching my fists too tightly. They were in a great hurry to get the money, rushing home to grab a few clothes before clamoring to set off. Of course, I had to oblige them. After boarding the village's only tractor, the entire village turned out to see us off, not to thank me. the volunteer teacher who had devoted 3 years to them. But because I was about to bring them a full 200,000 yuan, everyone was overjoyed at the prospect. I glanced at the woman standing at the back of the crowd, wearing a red shirt and hunched shoulders with a look of fear on her face, subtly nodding at her. I then settled into my seat and waited for the tractor to start. From the very beginning when I chose this village for teaching, I had my own purpose, years ago. My sister came to this village to teach, but she suddenly disappeared not long after, leaving no trace. The village's explanation was that she couldn't bear the hardship and ran away, but I know my sister's character. She would never abandon her students just because of hardship, so for years, I've been searching for my sister's whereabouts, until one time, I deliberately got close to a villager who went to work at a construction site in the city. When he was drunk, he inadvertently said, "What's the big deal about college students? Those college students who come to teach in our village, don't they all have to obediently do as I say?" But he seemed to realize his words could cause trouble. No matter how I coaxed or plied him with alcohol afterward, he refused to say another word. I tried reporting it to the police, but without any concrete evidence, my claims were dismissed. To gather evidence, when I learned that the school was recruiting students to teach in this village, I didn't hesitate to raise my hand and sign up. The people in this village are tight-lipped. When I first arrived in the village, they weren't even willing to talk to me much, afraid of alerting the enemy. I patiently taught the children for 3 years. After 3 years of interaction, I barely managed to dispel their suspicions. Gradually, I figured out what shady dealings this village was involved in. Shockingly, they were colluding to demand so-called debts amounting to hundreds of thousands from female volunteers and trafficked women. If anyone refused, they would immediately detain her and forcibly marry her off to someone in the village. Those with money are extorted for cash, those without money are simply kidnapped. The village's terrain is complex, and there's no signal, making it extremely difficult to call for help. Plus, they keep tight-lipped, their excuses are always the same. Even when people came looking, given their consistent tone, not a single flaw has been exposed all these years. Previously, the villagers here handled marriages and funerals entirely among themselves, resulting in many children born with intellectual disabilities, deafness, or muteness. With this trick, even if they couldn't extort money, getting a college-educated wife to bear a child with normal intelligence wasn't a bad deal. The villagers took great pride in this, believing it was through their efforts that the children had happy families and higher IQs, completely unaware that their happy families came at the cost of ruining someone else's life. In the villagers' words, there were 2 women who refused to stay in their place. One named Xu Tianqing was beaten to death by her mentally disabled husband assigned to her because she adamantly refused to submit. Another named Li Ruru set fire to her house to escape in the chaos, all for the chance to return home. That Xu Tianqing who was beaten to death, she was my sister. We each took our parents' surnames, one from our father, one from our mother, so when those villagers cursed Xu Tianqing to her face, calling her a disgraceful woman who deserved to die, they had no idea her own younger brother was standing right there. Now is the time for them to pay the price for their negligence. Back in the city, I gazed at the somewhat unfamiliar scenery, feeling dazed. Unlike that poor, backward mountain village covered in dull dust, this place was bright and bustling, with gleaming windows and endless streams of traffic. Being here felt like stepping into the light. The 2 burly men guarding me became uneasy as soon as we entered the city. No longer displaying the fierce and unreasonable demeanor they had in the village, they obediently followed me step by step. "I'm a bit hungry. Let's grab a bite first, my treat." The 2 nodded eagerly. The 3 of us found a small eatery by the roadside and sat down. I excused myself, claiming a stomachache, and headed to the restroom. After confirming there was no back exit from the restroom, the 2 lost interest in guarding me closely. They ordered 2 bottles of beer each, leisurely snacking on salted peanuts while waiting for their food. Seizing the opportunity, I hid in the restroom and checked my phone. Sure enough, there was signal now. Dialed the emergency number. "Hello, 110, I want to report a crime. Someone's illegally detaining and intentionally killing people." By the time I stepped out, the table was laden with all sorts of dishes. These 2, taking advantage of not having to pay, had practically ordered everything on the menu. watching them gorge themselves like pigs. I wrinkled my nose in disgust. Eat up, after this meal, you'll be dining on prison food, before the police arrived. All I needed to do was stall these two individuals and prevent them from leaving early. The police acted swiftly, quickly apprehending the two who were completely unaware of what was happening. They struggled desperately. It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. We haven't done anything wrong. We just arrived in the city. You've been reported for illegal confinement and intentional homicide. Please come with us to assist in the investigation. After struggling for a while, the two finally looked at me standing nearby. It's you. Indeed, it's me. When you dragged me into the city and forced me to withdraw money, you probably never imagined you'd never make it back. The police took the two back to the station for interrogation, but they remained stubborn as mules, refusing to confess no matter what. Although I had recordings of the village chief threatening to keep me in Xiaohua village as his live-in son-in-law unless I paid exorbitant compensation. This only proved his extortion. It couldn't substantiate allegations of unlawful detention, let alone intentional murder. Due to the lack of cooperation from the two villagers, the case stalled and made no further progress. I suggested, why don't we go to Xiaohua village? There are other victims there who can serve as witnesses, including a girl who was forced to marry a fool. The police were also frustrated by their inability to make any breakthroughs. Upon hearing my suggestion, they immediately agreed without hesitation and decided to head straight to Xiaohua village. I rode in the police car as our group hurried to Xiaohua village. Unexpectedly, the village chief had already gathered all the villagers to wait for us at the entrance. I had a bad feeling in my heart. Sure enough, the village chief greeted us cheerfully. Comrade officers, what brings you here? Someone reported you for illegal confinement and intentional homicide and provided corresponding evidence. What do you have to say? The village chief wasn't surprised. As if he had already prepared a way to respond, he bared his large yellow teeth as he offered cigarettes to each of the police officers one by one. Even when refused, he didn't get angry, maintaining the demeanor of an honest man. Comrade officers, was it Xiao Liang who called you? It's all a misunderstanding. Xiao Liang has made tremendous contributions to our village, and we simply couldn't bear to see him leave. So we resorted to this desperate measure. If he insists on going, we would never hold him against his will. What about the 200,000 yuan you demanded? The village chief spread his hands helplessly. It was just a joke. Look, did any of us actually get the money? We were just teasing Xiao Liang, who knew he'd take it so seriously. And what about those two people who went into the city with him? Our village is remote, and we were worried something might happen to teacher Liang on the road. So we specifically had someone follow her. We meant no harm, only good intentions. The village chief smiled like an old fox. Though I wasn't sure where things had gone wrong, I was certain that the village chief and his group must have gotten wind of it early, hence their preparedness. If even I could spot the issue, the police certainly wouldn't miss it. The young officer cut the village chief off decisively. Does your village have a young lady named Zhong Qiyu? Is she here now? We have some questions for her. Yes, Qiyu, come quickly. The police officer wants to ask you some questions. The village chief called out to the crowd. Zhong Qiyu was the woman who had come out wearing a red shirt to see me off that day, originally a university student in the city. She had come alone to this village for social research, only to be detained by the villagers and forced to marry the fool who had beaten Xu Tianqing to death. The fool, having killed Xu Tianqing, showed no restraint and would often beat or curse Zhong Qiyu. After I arrived in the village, Zhong Qiyu, unable to endure the fool's abuse any longer, knocked on my door one day, begging me to save her. In the end, it was I who found the village and proposed that she become my teaching assistant. Telling the villagers that in the city, students only succeed when taught by multiple teachers, the villagers took it seriously and agreed to let this college graduate work at the school, sparing Zhong Qiyu from her daily beatings. As they spent more time together, trust grew between them, and they eventually shared their stories. When Zhong Qiyu learned that I had come to avenge my sister, she clutched my hand tightly, begging me to save her. We had long agreed that once I gathered the evidence, we would return to the city and report it to the police. She was supposed to appear as a witness, leaving the villagers no chance to fight back or catch their breath. But when I saw Jong Chiyu being called out by the village chief, she kept her head down, trembling and not daring to look at me. A bad premonition surfaced, and my heart sank heavily. Sure enough, Jong Chiyu spoke up. I don't know what Teacher Liang told you, but I certainly haven't been coerced or confined in any way. I'm a student from Licheng Normal University, here conducting social research, and I'll be leaving in another month. The villagers have all been very kind to me, offering their help, and I'm truly grateful to them. I couldn't hold back any longer and rushed forward, grabbing her by the collar. Why are you doing this? Don't you want to go home? We had an agreement. Once I called the police, you'd come forward as a witness. We were supposed to seek justice for those people together. Jong Chiyu avoided eye contact, never daring to meet my gaze. Teacher Liang, you must have misunderstood the villagers. They're all good people. Please stop trying to frame them. You're a college student too. You shouldn't use your education and knowledge to bully these honest folks. If I weren't someone who doesn't hit women, my fist would have landed on her face right then. I frantically looked around. There's more than just her trapped in this village. If we search the village and find the other women, we'll definitely uncover the truth. Teacher Liang, that's not right of you to say. We're all law-abiding citizens here. Chiyu told us that you educated folks believe in innocent until proven guilty. How can you search our homes without any reason? The police officer beside me gently tugged at my sleeve, shook his head slightly, and gave me a meaningful look. I knew they had done their best. If we rashly searched the village today and found something, it would be fine. But if we came up empty-handed, they would all suffer because of me. I couldn't be that selfish. In the end, we had no choice but to release the two strong men who had come to town with me, and we slunk back to the car to return to the city. The car started, kicking up a cloud of dust. But it couldn't obscure the smug faces of the villagers behind us. The young officer driving slammed his hand heavily on the steering wheel. This is so frustrating. Those people clearly have something to hide, yet we can't find any evidence to hold them accountable. I tried to calm myself and looked at him apologetically. I'm sorry for wasting your time. I had arranged for that woman, Jong Chiyu, to testify, but I misjudged her. She suddenly backed out. Don't worry. The older officer in the car exhaled sharply. Justice may be slow, but it never fails. I refuse to believe we won't find a crack in their story and bring them to justice. Returning to the city in a police car, I immediately resumed gathering evidence without delay, given what had just happened. The people of Xiaohua village were undoubtedly on high alert. Sending another undercover agent was no longer feasible. So I had to search for a needle in a haystack, trying to find migrant workers from Xiaohua village in the city and extract more information from them. But how easy is it to locate a few individuals from Xiaohua village in an entire city? Moreover, they share information among themselves and must already be aware of the events in their village. They would never easily trust a stranger or reveal their dark secrets. Left with no other options, I resorted to posting on various social media platforms, offering rewards for any information about migrant workers from Xiaohua village. At present, I don't have concrete evidence, so I can't directly accuse them of killing my sister. All I can say is that my sister disappeared in Xiaohua village years ago, and as her younger brother, I'm extremely worried. I just want to ask the people of Xiaohua village if they know anything about her situation. Initially, this method was indeed effective. Many netizens came forward, with one saying their co-worker was from Xiaohua village and could help inquire. According to that person, they vaguely remembered hearing this name mentioned years ago by a worker from Xiaohua village who did renovations for their family. There were also some scammers trying to take advantage, sending me private messages claiming they could provide my sister's address if I paid them, whether the information is true or false. As long as more people keep discussing it or it garners enough social attention, eventually the truth will come to light. I will definitely avenge my sister. Unexpectedly, more than 10 days after I posted the information, all the people in the comments who tried to help brainstorm solutions or provide information vanished into thin air, replaced by endless attacks and insults. So it turns out he's a bloodsucker. I actually defended someone like this before. Just thinking about it makes me sick. His sister's been missing for so many years, and he never bothered to look for her. Now he's searching because he wants to get married and expects his sister to pay the bride price or buy him a house. Right, I really hope his sister is lucky enough never to be found by him in this lifetime. Thought it was sibling love. Turns out she was just raising Yao Zhu for Zhao Di's sake. Everyone remember to report him. Don't comment. More comments mean more traffic and money for him. Wouldn't that just make him happy being scolded? Some people were just as confused as I was, asking for context in the comments. A kind soul replied, "Search for the outspoken female college student." I saw this reply and went searching, never expecting to actually find Zhong Qiyu. She had also registered an account, with the username "an ordinary yet outspoken female college student." The entire account had hundreds of thousands of followers but only posted one video. I clicked in. She was talking about me. During his time teaching at Xiaohua Village, this Mr. Liang freeloaded meals and drinks without ever wanting to pay, and he even acted like a tyrant, making students serve him. I was conducting research in Xiaohua Village at the time, and he demanded that I assist him with teaching, threatening to quit otherwise. For the sake of the children's education, I had no choice but to comply. Little did I know he would leer at me all day and even make inappropriate advances. Thankfully, the village chief and other villagers stood up for me, so I didn't suffer any real harm. He told me his sister doted on him and would unconditionally fulfill all his demands, which is why he wanted to find her. These were all things I once confided in Zhong Qiyu as we comforted each other in our pain, but now they've become weapons she uses against me. Living rent-free and eating for free during volunteer teaching. Due to limited conditions in the mountain village, there were no faculty dormitories. For the convenience of teaching, I rented a house at my own expense and bought groceries to cook when I first arrived, apart from occasional food gifts from villagers. I never took anything for free, even for the food given. I found opportunities to reciprocate with gifts of higher value. Using her child's education to coerce her into assisting me with teaching. It was because her foolish husband would beat or scold her relentlessly. To save her and reduce her suffering, I had no choice but to find ways to bring her to the school, unconditionally fulfilling all his demands. My sister is several years older than me, and as siblings who relied on each other for survival, it was natural for us to support one another. While my sister fulfilled my needs, I also bought gifts for her in return. All the facts have been distorted by Zhong Qiyu, who effortlessly portrayed me as a completely unscrupulous sinner. I can't understand it. I've treated Zhong Qiyu well all these years. I helped her escape domestic violence, secretly gave her pocket money. Whenever she went home and had no food to eat, I would cook extra portions to include hers. I even offered to help her run away, but we abandoned the plan only because she was too scared to act alone. How could she do this to me? I contacted Zhong Qiyu through a private message on the back end. After a long while, Zhong Qiyu finally replied to my message, "Let's meet up." The meeting place was chosen by Zhong Qiyu. Surprisingly, it was a cafe at her school. As soon as she saw me, she eyed me up and down with caution. I knew what she was thinking, so I proactively took out my phone and placed it on the table. Then emptied my pockets to prove I wasn't carrying any recording devices. "I'm not here to harm you. I just want to understand why you did this." Zhong Qiyu looked troubled. "Liang Yuji, I have my own difficulties too. You need to understand me. What difficulties could you possibly have? If you had just told the truth when I brought the police to the village that day, they would have been brought to justice already, and no one would have hurt you." I spoke urgently, her betrayal leaving me utterly perplexed. "But have you ever thought that if I told the truth, this matter would definitely be reported by the media? All my classmates, relatives, and friends would know that during those years I went out for research, I was married off to a fool. How could I face anyone after that? You could ask the media not to report your personal information. And besides, you're the victim. I didn't dare take even the slightest risk. The village chief had already promised me that as long as I spoke up for them, he would let me return to school, and I swore I'd never do such a thing again. Wasn't that enough?" Zhong Qiyu spoke with conviction. "Do you really believe that?" I laughed at her foolishness. "So much time has passed, and apart from you, none of the others who were detained, men or women, have been released. Do you think they all willingly stayed in that wretched place to be treated like animals?" Zhong Qiyu was left speechless, and it took her a while to muster any semblance of defiance. "You're just spouting high-sounding words. Don't think I don't know. You couldn't care less about others' lives. You're only doing this for your sister, so what if I'm doing it for my sister, but I'm also doing it for all those poor souls victimized by those scum. I'm trying every possible way to save them, while you're aiding and abetting evil. Jong Chiu remained stubbornly unrepentant. You're just exploiting your position as a teacher to coerce me into helping you, offering me measly little favors in exchange for sacrificing my reputation to seek justice for your sister, whose bones have long since rotted away. How are you any different from those villagers? Both of you harm innocent people for your own gain. I was nearly driven to laughter by her audacity. Truly, when someone has no shame, they're capable of saying anything. Back then, I chose to save Jong Chiu simply out of momentary kindness, never expecting anything in return from her. It was she who approached me first, proposing to deal with the people in the village. It was she who, upon learning about my sister's situation, immediately said girls help girls and offered to help me seek justice for my sister, and it was also she who initiated discussions with me to devise this plan of gathering evidence and reporting to the police to bring all those villains to justice. One could say that without her involvement from the start, I would never have sought revenge in this manner but would have devised a more thorough plan instead. She was the one who gained my trust only to suddenly betray me, and now she accuses me of exploiting her gratitude without considering her feelings. I thought she was meeting me this time to clarify what had happened before and to work out a new plan with me to deal with those villagers, but unexpectedly, she came on behalf of the village chief to persuade me. The village chief has already said that as long as you're willing to pay 500,000 and give everyone in the village a new phone, promising never to bring this matter up again, he'll let you off. Liang Yuji, you're a smart person. You know what choice to make. Though I'm no saint, I have at least a basic sense of humanity and the ability to distinguish right from wrong, so I firmly rejected her. Jong Chiu flushed with anger. Don't regret this later. Don't blame me for not remembering our past friendship. What benefits did those people even give you to make you so willingly become their dog? Jong Chiu's face turned dark with anger. Watch your tone. They threatened me. If I didn't do as they said, they'd expose how I was forced to marry that idiot back then. I had no choice. After knowing her for so long, I never realized she could be this foolish. The village trash kept using this incident to threaten and control her. The more she compromised, the more emboldened they became, exploiting her with increasing audacity. In the past, I might have reminded her, but now, I couldn't care less. No amount of good advice can save those doomed to perish. She must bear responsibility for her own choices, even if the path she chose leads to an abyss, where a single misstep spells eternal damnation. That day, we parted on bad terms, and Jong Chiu began targeting me with even greater intensity. She was no longer content with painting me as a creepy, parasitic loser leeching off my sister, but instead doubled down on fabricating rumors about me. She started claiming that my sister disappeared precisely to avoid me, that I had once beaten her into the ICU when she couldn't satisfy my selfish desires, and thus all affection between us had long since vanished. She began accusing me of petty thefts in the village, claiming I stole ancestral gold and silver from villagers to sell for money, and that villagers dared not speak up in anger for fear of their children's education. They even fabricated stories about me arbitrarily occupying villagers' houses, sweeping them out and leaving them homeless. The most terrifying part was that netizens actually believed every word of it. Suddenly, I became a universally despised villain, only by stepping on dog poop, falling to my death, and then being run over by dozens of cars in succession could I appease the netizens' burning hatred. The topic of son preference and the brother-serving demon phenomenon has always been controversial, and even my long-deceased parents were dragged into the criticism. Being torn apart online, I had to cover myself completely whenever I went out, afraid of being recognized and beaten up. I was clearly the one standing on the side of justice, yet now I'm living like a rat scurrying across the street. Just when I was at my wit's end, someone quietly reached out to me. I'm willing to help you. She is none other than Li Ruru, the one who tied with my sister on the village's hate list, even surpassing her. The very same Li Ruru who successfully escaped by setting fire to a house. She said she was willing to testify for me and expose all the evils of that village. Jong Chiu's words still echoed in my ears as I looked at the girl standing before me. dressed simply with her hair tied in a ponytail. Aren't you afraid this might have negative consequences for you? People might talk about you too. I am afraid, she answered bluntly. It's precisely because I'm afraid that I haven't stepped forward all these years. But I can't keep being afraid forever. Someone has to stand up and speak out for the victims. Her eyes revealed a bravery and determination that Jong Chiyu lacked. And even though I had just been betrayed, I still chose to trust her, because she carried a scent similar to mine, the unwavering aura of upholding justice. I wanted to report it to the police, but she stopped me. I've seen the situation you mentioned online. Aren't you curious why, as soon as 2 people were arrested in your area, those old beasts in the village immediately knew and were prepared, after that failed attempt to confront the village? I had been drowning in regret and pain, never stopping to ponder this question deeply. It wasn't until Li Ruru reminded me that I suddenly realized, you mean, there might be a mole? She said firmly, we can't expose ourselves too early and give those bastards a chance to destroy evidence. If we're going to strike, we have to catch them off guard. Seeing the blazing fire in her eyes, I decided to follow her lead. After all, escaping the pursuit of an entire village alone and fleeing from that small mountain hamlet was no feat of mediocrity. The method she gave me was fishing, where Jong Chiyu and all the men, women, and children in that group were the fish. And I was the bait. Seeing my helpless expression, Li Ruru smiled and said, you can't catch a wolf without sacrificing a child. Anyway, your reputation is already in tatters. What's a little more damage? With no other options, I could only nod in agreement. So, Li Ruru hired a large number of paid trolls to flood Jong Chiyu's video comment section. This is just petty theft and mischief. If it were discovered that he molested students, he'd be taken away and rot in jail. Exactly. This person probably has some common sense and knows what major offenses to avoid. What a shame the law can't punish him. Meanwhile, on the other side, I called Jong Chiyu. Tell her I've saved all the evidence of her marrying a fool and plan to release it immediately. Jong Chiyu was scared. The reason she kept cursing at me was that she relied on me having principles, that I wouldn't use her marriage to a fool to hurt her. Now, hearing me say this, she knew her trump card was gone. To protect her reputation, she had to get rid of me. The comments section is once again filled with lamentations that if I had molested students, I would have been immediately restrained and never given the chance to harm society again. Jong Chiyu's mind truly isn't very sharp. She previously believed in the village chief's plans and became his most loyal dog. Now, swayed by the inflammatory comments online, she actually went live to accuse me of molesting students. She's grown accustomed to netizens believing whatever she says and the process of convicting me outright, but she never considered that allegations of student molestation require intervention by public authorities, especially since she's been trending recently. And now this bombshell has caused a massive uproar across society. The provincial authorities decided that very day to send investigators to look into the entire matter. This was precisely the goal Li Ruru and I had in mind. By making a big scene, even if there were moles, they wouldn't be able to influence the investigators sent from above. Will Jong Chiyu believe the comments and plagiarize homework to spread rumors? Can Jong Chiyu's words create a significant social impact, spark nationwide discussion, and draw attention from higher authorities? Will the higher authorities be responsible enough to immediately dispatch personnel to form an investigation team? Each step is possible, but none is certain. We're also taking a gamble. Fortunately, our gamble paid off. Li Ruru and I truthfully recounted our experiences in Xiaohua village to the police and presented all the evidence we currently had. Li Ruru still retains the injury assessment she obtained immediately after escaping the village, as well as that absurd marriage certificate between her and the village idiot. She had been lured into that village by a shady tour guide during a trip. She kept these items originally just to remind herself not to be so easily deceived again, never expecting they would prove so useful now. My previous threats to Jong Chiyu weren't entirely baseless. I had indeed saved numerous videos of her foolish husband violently beating and verbally abusing her before dragging her home with a smug face. I didn't mention them earlier because I was worried that improper use might cause harm to Jong Chiyu later. I didn't use them because my reputation was already ruined, and even if I released them, few would believe me. However, the investigation team sent from above was diligent and responsible. They verified every piece of our testimony, sent my video recording for authentication, and after confirming there was no fabrication, they issued the order without hesitation. Wait, I still have something to say. The leader showed not a hint of impatience and said earnestly, "Comrade, go ahead." I truthfully recounted my previous experience of reporting to the police and also added the speculation between Lee Ruru and me. We suspect there might be an insider tipping off the people in that village. The leader of the investigation team wore a serious expression, then smiled slightly and said it was no big deal. Just look into it. Several days later, our group once again boarded police cars heading to Xiaohua village. To maintain confidentiality, each member of the investigation team, along with me and Li Ruru, were seated separately in different vehicles to prevent them from exchanging information. The driver of the car I'm sitting in is still that young policeman I met last time, he said excitedly. Great, I knew these people were up to no good. I hope we can bring them to justice this time. We will, I responded solemnly, answering him and also cheering myself on. Upon arriving at the village, as expected, the village chief was once again leading a group of people waiting at the entrance. Their faces were filled with smugness, likely thinking they had made ample preparations. What a pity. This time, however, they were swiftly apprehended. After the investigation team conducted their checks, they had long since identified the mole. Once the village chief's distant nephew was arrested, it didn't take long for him to spill everything like beans pouring out of a bamboo tube. Over the years, a portion of the extorted money in the village ended up in his pocket. It was also with his help in covering things up that allowed the village to act so recklessly. The mole has been uncovered and has already confessed to his crimes truthfully. The criminal activities of the entire village are clear-cut. This time, just proceed with the investigation according to the law. The investigation team, armed with a search warrant, forcefully restrained all the protesting villagers and proceeded to search the village. Soon, women bound by chains were found in more than 10 households. Among the victims was also a man. They were all unfortunate individuals who had been deceived and detained. Now, they are finally saved. In the cellar of the fool who killed my sister, the police unearthed a corpse, its flesh entirely rotted away, leaving only loose bones lying beneath the soil. The skull was shattered and deformed, and the limbs bore fractures of varying severity. Even the officers accompanying me couldn't bear to look, sighing heavily, let alone me. That battered white skeleton was my own sister, who grew up with me sharing the same parents. Stumbling forward, I knelt before the skeletal remains and kowtowed heavily 3 times. I'm sorry, sister, your brother came too late and let you suffer unjustly, this time. The village chief thought he had everything under control, but was caught completely off guard. Nearly everyone in the village was taken away by the police for investigation. These people were exceptionally arrogant towards me back then, but now they've all wilted after being collectively taken into the interrogation room. The police officer who previously helped them relay messages has now been exposed, leaving them completely without hope. In a bid to reduce their sentences and gain merit, they're scrambling to expose and accuse each other. The police quickly issued a notice, clearly explaining the details of the case. The village chief and other principal offenders were all sentenced to death. The remaining individuals were also sentenced to life imprisonment or fixed-term sentences, with the minimum being 15 years. They will spend the rest of their lives behind bars. The privacy of the victims has been protected to the greatest extent possible. All media outlets unanimously pixelated the information of all victims, while for the perpetrators, the blurring was so minimal it looked like adding a beauty mark over their eyes. There was only one exception left uncensored, and that was Zhong Qiyu. The reason she was exposed wasn't because she had once married a fool, but because after getting caught in the rain herself, she wanted to tear apart everyone else's umbrellas. Now the law has restored justice to me, while she has become the new public enemy. What surprised me was that after enduring the frenzied attacks from keyboard warriors, she actually chose to drop out of school and return to that small mountain village that had once confined her. The man who killed my sister, Zhong Qiyu's husband, was exempt from punishment because he was mentally unstable. Zhong Qiyu actually went back to him. To be honest, I'm tormented by the fact that the murderer escaped punishment. I wish I could kill that man myself. For this, I agonized and struggled for a long time. But soon the news came. Zhong Qiu did it for me. She killed that man. Then she set a raging fire throughout the village. She burned herself, and all those unpunished accomplices in the village, to ashes. So this was her true purpose for going back. That's fine too. At last, my heart found peace. Upon seeing the news report, I brought a bouquet of white chrysanthemums to my sister's grave that day. Sister, rest in peace. The vengeance has finally been served. The white chrysanthemums swayed as a gentle breeze brushed past the hem of my clothes. It felt like my sister's sigh.